Shake your dreams from your hair. I'm already there, right beside you. So please, don't hide, just say I'll be there if it breaks, right beside you. Suddenly I know now how it feels. I no longer have to beg or steal. I can stand now on this higher ground, where love is just a sound.
Good morning, everyone. Here from Gecko Diva, and welcome to Coffee and Cresties. I got my fancy little sparkly Starbucks mug today, and drinking tea, not coffee this morning. Kind of did a little switch over for the new year. It's been a while since we've done one of these, right? I took a break in January. I've been a little MIA, and yeah, it was kind of a nice break, but I definitely missed it. I think our last episode was the last Sunday of December. Um, the break did me some good though. It was a crazy month in December with all the campaigning for 15 Minutes Lame and all the social media that we were doing and collabing with a whole bunch of other breeders, which was an awesome experience, but definitely needed the break. But now back in full steam, kind of easing into it this month. I can't believe it's already February. We're already February 2nd, which is wild to me. It's cold outside today. I know for those of you who don't know, I'm near Ottawa in Ontario in Canada, Great White North, and it is cold. And you can open the door and it's just smoky coming in, right? Because of how cold it is outside. But yeah, trying to make it through the winter. There have been worse ones, so we are a little fortunate this year. Yeah, I'm looking forward to spring and things warming up for sure. Um, I did do one episode in January to kind of fill in some gaps, and we did a new kind of branching off of the Coffee and Cresties After Dark and doing the industry chat, which I thought was a lot of fun. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it is on this YouTube channel. So definitely go and check that out. We had a chance to talk about, so it was Flawless joined me, Brian from Who's Geckos joined me, and Bobby over at Gecko Cove. And we had some discussions about different shipping options. We chatted about shipping and sales platforms and sales options. So it was a pretty good chat. We had a good time. I think it went way over than what usually Coffee and Cresty goes over, because I think we were probably chatting for over 2 hours. But definitely worth checking out, because there was a lot of good information that was shared by some pretty awesome people. I know it's going to be a little tough for people to get back into routine now that we're back in February. It's Sunday morning, and a lot of people like their sleep, and I don't blame them. So they tend to catch the replay. But we do have 7 troopers this morning logged in to watch it, which is pretty awesome. So welcome back, everybody. Let's do a little bit. We have a little bit of shout outs here. Only, I think, 3 of you commented in the chat. We have AJ here. Good morning. Feels so much better to say good morning, because I was struggling with that in the After Dark episode, because when I'm going through the shout outs, I had a tendency to say good morning, and it was 8 o'clock at night. So it was a little bit of a tough routine to get out of, that's for sure. And my husband's in the chat. Good morning. He's actually gone to the gym this morning. We started again a little late. So not, a lot of people start with their New Year's resolution and they hop in January and say, hey, it's time to make a change. And then you see the big boom at the gym. And we kind of put it off a little bit, enjoyed our January, and now we're hitting it now. So yesterday was the first day, and I could tell you I'm really sore. It's tough to get back to it and start a routine, but it'll be worth it. So I have a goal a fitness goal to hit by CRBE in the fall in September. So we'll see what comes of it. But yeah, he's tuning in and we're keeping him company today while he's working out and doing weights. So I appreciate the support for sure. Cassandra's in the house this morning. Good morning. Hope you're doing well, Cassandra. And then we have Misfit Gecko Army in the house. Good morning. And we got Bobby. Good morning, Bobby from Gecko Cove. Really awesome that you joined us in the last episode for the After Dark. Thank you so much. And it was a really, really cool chat. Yeah, so not much to talk about this morning. It's the same old and winter blues, man. Nothing new with the gecko stuff. I have expanded a little bit on some shelving, and we're revamping this room a little bit. But aside from that, I've been MIA, so I don't really have a tea time this morning because I haven't really been paying much attention. It's just been kind of hopping on when I know things are going on and supporting. There's been a lot of awesome people that have been doing some palm streets. So I do kind of pop in when I can just to show some support. I know it's been a little bit of a slow time, but people are starting to kind of pick up again, right? As the season picks up and the show season starts picking up. Good morning, HKD Geckos. Happy that you're here to join us this morning. And we got Remy Ree's Royals as well. Mommy and Me Geckos. Good morning. Bobby says, I just got a desk walking pad treadmill. Hopefully that helps me reach my fitness goal this year. You know, I almost bought one this weekend. I actually had a bit of a disagreement with my husband because we were talking about the measurements of this walking pad. So I was been looking at a bunch of them on Amazon because I was going to put one in here. So on the wall over here, I kind of set up a new rack, and then I have a TV there now, so I can start putting on like music and shows that I want to watch and whatnot while I'm doing stuff in this room. And I thought it'd be kind of neat to get a walking pad, and I was adamant that I'd be able to slide it under these racks, and he was like, no, the walking pad is way too big. There's no way you're going to be able to put it on under the racks. And unfortunately, the table I have is a glass table, and it has all that like metal kind of framing underneath it, so I can't slide it under here too. So that's kind of put a little stick in my wheel with my plans of trying to get a walking pad in here, but we'll see. Let me know how you like it. I'm be curious to see which one you picked up and if it's has good reviews. We got Quincy in the house. Good morning, Gecko Nerd. Thanks for joining. Yeah, so like I said, we don't really have a tea time this morning, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into our awesome guest today. Also, there was somebody who had mentioned last month that the intro music was a bit loud. I made an effort to edit it, so if it's still too loud, let me know. But I did drop the volume, and I'm pretty sure I uploaded the right one because it wasn't that as loud when I played it. So let me know if there's still issues with it. But yeah, we're going to hop in and bring on our guest. Good morning, Gabby. How are you?
Good morning. I'm well. How are you? I loved the intro music, by the way. It was beautiful.
For the little segment, it's like welcome to the
Yeah.
coffee house.
I love it. Great.
Makes you feel like you're
You.
coming to like a little Starbucks chat, right?
Yeah, it was perfect. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah,
I
no,
see.
well, thank you so much for joining today and your super busy schedule, which I imagine is packed with so many things because you're a busy woman.
I'm a pretty busy person, and then as soon as I'm like, oh, things are calm and quiet, let me just pick up another 17 projects, and it's the story of my life. And I complain about it, so it's perpetual.
You know, I feel like I do the same. I'm nearly not as busy as you are, but I can tell you I need to be busy. I don't know about you, but I feel like there's a need to always have something on the go, or
Yeah.
else, it's almost like your little life's purpose where you're like, okay, I want to do this and I want to do this now. And
100%. And honestly, as much as you say I'm busy, I see how much work you put into all this. And I'm incredibly impressed. So
Well, thank
you
you.
have no ability to say that you are not busy enough or you are busy. You do a lot of things. We talked about it. It's
Yeah,
impressive.
it's funny because you sit there and you're like, oh yeah, I could take something else on. Sure, that sounds fun. I'm
Yeah.
game.
And every time you do, you're like, great. Why did I just do that? Or you love it, but it
Yeah,
does.
well, that's why the breaks are needed too, right? Like at the end of
Yeah.
the day, like it was kind of nice to take the break in January. But
Yeah.
I find like these chats are a lot of fun, and to me it's easier that it's live because there's less editing. I have no idea how people with full-time jobs that work with, geckos and projects and stuff or
Yeah.
any file for that matter,
Yeah.
have a chance to have even time in their schedule to like be able to edit the videos that they record, because you have to take the time to record it, and then it's hours of going there and editing it, whereas the lives, I mean, you gotta be a little bit more careful of what you say on the
Yeah.
fly.
Yeah. I
But
have
it's
a
a little
tendency
bit
of sometimes
easier.
opening my mouth when I probably shouldn't, but it's just too easy.
It happens.
Yeah.
Mother Gecko says that you
Mm.
look so pretty.
So, funny story, I'm not a morning person. I just woke up 5 minutes ago before I came into this. And last night I went out for dinner and I was like, I don't know if I really want to wake up that much earlier and like put my face together. So I just slept in my makeup and that was it.
And we met last night to do like a sound check and everything, and it's funny because we talked about it, and I was like, I wonder if she's actually going to do it.
I
And
did. I did.
uh,
I just like slept like this. So it was great. I see so many friends in the chat, and I'm just so happy to see all of the names. And it's so great.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's awesome. And that's the other fun thing about doing live shows like this too, right? Is that you have the individuals that are tuning in and that you can chat with. And you do a lot of
Yeah.
lives, like you were doing a lot of lives on YouTube. And I think you did one
Mhm.
recently, didn't you?
We did one just before the holidays, and it was great. It's just now that we have Palm Street, it's just so easy to like
Yeah.
go live 2 seconds. It's and there you're done. Whereas like before, we put a lot of effort into it. And AJ just went live the other night, and like you forget you have to carry all of the stuff. We'd have lights, we'd have the tripod and the cameras and the microphones and the like clicking back and forth. Like there were so many elements that went into it and it was great. But
Hmm.
with the exception of how phenomenal the camera system is that we use that AJ set up, um Palm Street's just so simple. It's like
Yeah.
easy to use. You don't have to like chase people down to pay and like it's just right there. So there's a lot of like laziness that we have like, attributed to not going live as much on YouTube, but we were doing it every week or every other week and it was great, but it's a lot. So
It
um,
does get a lot when you have the extra steps. So for those that don't know, how close are you to AJ's place?
So he lives in Greensboro area, which is from where we live now. We moved a little further away from him, still not by much more than 10 minutes, but I think our drive is like an hour and 30, an hour and 40. So like there was also that drive.
Okay, wow. So yeah, it's not so much just like someone next door where it's like, oh, it's gonna take me 15 minutes to get there. Like you're saying, you have to pack everything up, everything you're gonna bring with you. Then you got to do the
Exactly.
drive. Yeah,
Exactly.
it ends up being a whole production.
It's like a big to do. It's a lot. And as like I said, as much as we loved it, there was nothing else like it at the time. But since we worked really closely with Palm Street to, perfect like whatever we could need for the reptile side, it was just too simple and too easy to do
Yeah.
that. And we've gotten kind of, behind on doing our personal auctions, but we do like to do them because the truth is like nobody's going to spend like investment quality money on really nice geckos on Palm Street when you can't really see the definition and what you really need to see out of them that you can on YouTube. So sorry.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. And we actually spoke about that when we did the industry chat.
Yeah.
And one point that I brought up was so I grew up with horses,
Yeah.
and horse auctions are a big thing, right? And usually what they do for horse auctions is you have a preview especially for the high end stuff, where you get to know like the different animals that are going to be coming up for auction. So people can actually go look at the animals, they can look at the lineage and learn all about that animal. So they're going into the auction knowing
Yeah.
what's coming up and having an idea of, what they want to bid for. And I think that would be a lot of fun to start seeing that kind of stuff happening on Palm Street, where you're having more of a strategic, type sale for higher end animals. That would definitely, I think, help for that. What do you think about that? Like, what has been your experience with the Palm Street auction stuff?
So that was actually something that AJ and I were talking about last night. I was like, a lot of people don't utilize the purge feature on Palm Street, but at least with the purge, you can photograph, put a price up, and have it be available. And hi, Scott, I love you.
That's the best.
He's the best. And Miguel, they're amazing. But the purge option would probably be a good way to have the platform and all the visibility that you could utilize, but sell things that are higher end. Because I do think that one of the things that the Palm Street culture has implemented is there's this like, I don't know if what the right word to use is, but like there's this psychology to it that like, because you're buying on Palm Street, it has to be cheap, it has to be easy, it has to be like, crazy, basically give up, incredibly nice geckos for $100 type stuff. And that's hard, but I do think that if you can properly photograph and do all the things and put the effort into it, you could, be more successful by utilizing the purge features and then, preview options like in your stories or in your posts, put previews of really pretty animals that you're going to put up and then show them and be like, oh, go look at our Instagram while we're live for this 60 seconds and take a peek what we have up there. This is what it really looks like, but this is the auction. So you can have an idea so that there's other creative ways that you can, show off some of the nicer things that you're putting up.
Yeah. How often are you doing auctions? Because you do it under your Flora Fauna tag, right?
Under Flora Fauna. We do them on Mondays now. We were doing Sundays, and it's just so hard because everybody ended up like kind of claiming a day. And all of the people who initially started are like, we're all peers. And even the people who are now, like I'm friends with, I would hope I'm not enemies with anybody and intentionally try to go over anybody's time. Like I would never intentionally try to do that. But then like there are people that it's hard to compete with. Like when Pangea's live, they have a huge audience. So like when you go live, you don't want to take from them, but you also like, you want to have a large audience too, because the more viewership, the more, people are seeing your animals. So it was really hard to find balance and eventually just communicating with friends and figuring out who can go in and what times. And like, we try to do just like 2 hours and that's it. And go in, go fast and get out,
Yeah. It's similar competitiveness too that I've seen with people within the podcast side of things, right? Because there's so many of them that have popped up and it's like, okay, well, who's on what day? And there's actually been people that have put together schedules. And they'll put the schedule on Monday, like every week, where it says like, this is the podcast for the week and like who's doing what on what channel at what time. I've seen that within the ball python side of things. I know within geckos, we do have podcasts, but it's not nearly as
frequent
voluminous as what we have on the ball python side. But yeah, it's always tough because you're like, oh, what day, what time, you don't want to take away from somebody else because you want to support the other individual. And
100%.
So
that's how I feel like I feel like everybody's on there are friends, there's nobody I'm like, oh, I don't like, that's not me at all. And I would never want to take away from somebody's business or like, those are just the important parts. And it's difficult to navigate because you're like, I swear it's not you. This is the only time I have an employee to help me, or this is like the timeline that's available. So we try to settle into Mondays. Plus Mondays are easier for us because then we could just ship out on Tuesday in like perfect circumstances, temperature wise.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Chris, I'm giving you your shout out. Fat Man's in the house this morning. So good morning.
Good morning.
Let's back up a bit and talk about, so you were one of the first like reptile individuals on Palm Street, right?
We did the very first live. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fun because I still try to help them and work with them. We work together to try to like bring community together and to try to like get the first initial like who has like a voluminous enough type of collection that could work, that we could like outro everybody, and then everybody will just start applying and do what they want to do with Palm Street. So I tried really hard to like coordinate with some of the people that work there and give some good recommendations for people who have either done lives in the past that kind of understand the platform and how to utilize them, or people who are really familiar with Palm Street, things like that. And then it kind of just developed after that. But we were the very first reptile business to go live, and it was really cool. It was
That's
really fun.
awesome. Yeah, and I know I remember when it started and we started seeing all the promos, like I had seen on your page. AJ had some on his page.
Yep.
And then I log in and I'm like, what do you mean it's not accessible in my area?
I
Because
heard.
yeah, so all the Canadians couldn't watch it. And then there was a little hack going around and people were saying, oh, you can get a VPN and
Yes.
then log in. And by the time I figured out the VPN aspect, all of a sudden I got access. So then I
Oh,
was able to watch. But the funny thing is my husband, he can confirm in the comments, but he did not have access either. And while I had access, so I told him to
weird.
get the app, and he logged in and he saw a clip of a video. Then it
Mhm.
disappeared, and then he got the error say it wasn't available in his area. And he's like, "We're in the same area. I don't understand." So I'm pretty sure I fixed it the last time. Like I just had to like close it and like re-download it, and then
Yeah,
I find. But it's weird because his format of the app looks different than my format of the app.
I
So I
got
don't know
you.
if it's a setting thing because I get like where it shows a live tab and you can click on that and you see all the
Yeah,
lives where he doesn't
yeah,
have a live tab on his.
gotcha. That's so
So
weird.
it is
How
really
interesting is
weird. So and when we're in the same house on the same network, right? The same
that? Yeah,
VPN, and so I'm
yeah,
like, oh, like I've been trying to figure this out, but a lot of people I know were really excited when they started getting access to it because you do have a lot
yeah.
of people in Canada watching, and I'm
I know.
sure you get occasional like, will you hold for
Mhm.
import or
Well, we
export in
were
the
really
stream?
used to having a Canadian audience and
Yeah,
sales to Canada. It
yeah,
was very normal. We had some amazing friends, I would say, that would come on, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Canadians are here, woo!" And we'd have
yeah.
so much fun, and there's like a lot of camaraderie. But I was shocked that they didn't have it in there. But I understand they just didn't know at the time like what to do. Also, give me 2.5 seconds. I don't have pants on, so I'm gonna lift this up and then just let the dogs out. I just didn't want to show you all the goods. That's it. That's it. You get an extra fee for that.
That's awesome.
They're
That's
just scratching at the door, and it's going to keep happening until I come back. But I
fair
was
enough.
hopeful that you would be sitting there without pants on too. So,
No, I got yoga pants on.
oh, that's very comfortable too.
Yeah. Scott saying that Gecko Nervous has an adult only purge today and got a bit excited about that title. I feel like that's a really fun title to be able to do like little promos with.
It's so good. It was genius. I can't wait to check it out. I didn't even know. I haven't been on Palm Street though in like a hot minute. So, and thank you, Scott. That was a kind comment.
Yeah, Cassandra says, I don't have the live tab either. I have to search the name, then I can get into the lives. I don't know how I got the live tab because my whole thing looks way different than everyone else. But I'm curious if you set up your account with payment, maybe it changes it.
Oh,
Because
that could be it too.
I've added an address. It doesn't fully accept it because of the province and I can't select Canada.
Yeah.
But I have been able to add a payment, and I did test a payment by sending a tip to somebody,
Oh,
and it
yeah.
works. So the
Oh, good.
payment does
Okay.
work. The only problem I could see is if someone's on there, they have to have the option of local pickup,
Oh.
for you to put it through because your
Mhm.
address, unless you put the seller's address as your
Okay.
address, because your address errors out because you can't put a Canadian address.
Okay, I'll talk to the people who run Palm Street, and I'll
Yeah.
ask them if they could do like at least for the per seller, maybe they can put something on there that says international shipping, and do you accept or something like that. So it could be a person's preference or not, rather than not, because I don't want to I don't want to negate any sales. Plus, shipping to
Yeah.
Canada is so simple.
Well, and for the most part, like when I've been on them and I've been listening, I'll check to see if there's a local pickup. And most people have a local pickup option. It's not very common that it's just a shipping address that you have to put in. But it's important to ask, because I did ask on the Pangea Live if they would hold for pickup, and they said no, or for shipping, and they said no, we don't export. We're not going to export anything to Canada. So I'm like, okay.
So weird.
So
You have people who will, though. Like, I know that they will. So don't worry. Like I said, I'll see if I can ask anybody or help. You could send messages to their support staff too. So usually they'll help. But maybe I can just put a word out there and see. I have like one or two people who are super nice that I can email. So I'll see if there's any options because I don't want that for you, because that sucks. You should.
Well, it'd be great, because I know that a lot of Canadians did participate in a lot of the sales when they were online on YouTube. And I think, I don't know how many right now have been buying on Palm Street or have been figuring out the different ways to do it.
Yeah.
For me, it's been pretty easy because they just pop up. I get a notification every time it's live. And I just tend to tell my husband when the ball python people are doing it, because he doesn't get the same notifications that I get.
Yeah. That's something that I struggle with them. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot by not just showing everybody all of the things. They were just worried that like plant people were gonna like see a snake and like freak out. But sorry, dogs. Poppy. But they have this fear that the plant people are gonna see a snake and just like be upset for seeing a snake. And I'm like, but life is not like that. They don't censor snakes off TikTok and all the other platforms that people are using. So I'm hoping that that's something that they can work on or shift, because even I don't see anything having to do with snakes when it comes on. So I'm hopeful that there will be like, maybe even if it's not the very top, but at least put them in the main page thread. So somebody who might not normally be interested and can come on and say, oh, those are really pretty. Let me take a look. What is that? And then, more, I call them like, cross sales happen. So yeah, it's a thing.
So let's for those that are not fully familiar with your business, why don't you share with everyone like how you got into this? Like, how did Morph Menagerie start?
Yeah.
And, and how did you decide to get into Crested Geckos in the first place?
Okay, well, funny enough, and some people might have heard the story or not, but I'll try to give you new spins on it so it feels good. But oddly enough, when I first started, there were no gecko morphs. So why would I be Morph Menagerie? That's so stupid. I bred ball pythons. And so it was Morph Menagerie when I bred ball pythons. Probably, I don't want to give my age away, but I think it was. I'm telling you, it was a hot minute. 20 years ago, and in the same time, I went on.
Started really young.
I'm so young, right? I started when I was like 7. That was it. Definitely just 7.
The first children in the business.
Yes, exactly. I could, they were my kids. And so I went on Craigslist and I went to the community and then the pets, like the whole we would all go to Craigslist. And I just started scrolling and I saw Crested Geckos and I was like, damn, I wanted a Crested Gecko for a minute. I was like, let me go message the person. And so I messaged this woman and I said, hey, I'm really interested. She goes, okay, cool. Let's meet up. I meet up and it was this girl I was in college with and I loved her. Her name is Sam. She is the complete opposite of everything I am. Like she's very calm and doesn't really talk very much and was quiet and, very like she's blonde, blue eyes. That's not me. Like every difference that we could be, we were, except for our love for reptiles. So she and I would go, at the time we were friends and we still, I would say, are friends with Alex Van Nostrum, who his family owns Strictly Reptiles, which is, a big import company and a lot of controversy, but we didn't know. We were just like kids who got to go look at all the pretty animals. And so we would go and I would just start like falling in love with things, buying them, be like, oh no, this isn't for me. I'm selling it or whatever it was when I'm not going to say how old I was, very young. And I could drive at the time. But we had so much fun. So it started with that, and then there was no Facebook at the time. This dog is driving me up a wall. Poppy. She stands outside the front window and just stares at anybody who walks by and then barks at them incessantly. And I just want to strangle her in the most loving, passionate way possible. But anyway, so we would shop at PetSmart and look for geckos. And a lot of times okay, hold on. I got to put the camera. Poppy, come here. Poppy, outside. Let's go. Out. Go. Okay, so sorry, Priscilla. This is Sunday mornings for us.
Hey, it's Sunday morning.
Okay.
And no one saw the goods, so you're good.
No one saw the goods. I'm really good at that. There was a half a second that I was like, oh God, let me put that up. Everybody else see my butt cheek. But anyway, so we would go to PetSmart and all of these places. Nobody was buying reptiles like that at the time. And they would be like full-blown adults. And it would be like, you go and you'd hit the like mother load. It would be like 3 big giant females living in the enclosure. And we're like, yes. And they're old. So they're on sale for $25. And this is what the life was like back then. So I did that. And then I met an ex, and then we moved to North Carolina. And I was like, this isn't working for me. So he and I split. I sold everything. Like I just got out of it entirely and went back to Florida for like 3-4 months and then moved back up. And then that's when I bought myself my Alici. I had actually some of my ball pythons. Somebody else was holding them for me. So I got some of my ball pythons back, and it just kind of like slowly reamped itself back up. And at that point, there's Facebook and forums and all of these things that were not there.
Yeah.
You know, Flora, I had fauna classifieds and king snake when I was in the hobby at the time. That was like newer. And then that was it. That was the just all started back up. And I said, I want to breed lychees again. And I was like, but I can't afford lychees. Let's start with Crested. And then I ended up loving my Crested again more than I did
Crested.
Yeah.
So
that's
what was like the first projects that you really kind of got into when you were working with Cresties? Because I would imagine like it would have just started having more options around that time, right? Like you're way behind ball pythons right now.
Oh my God. So I was like, I got into it, and there was like, I don't know, I think Xanthic had maybe just came out, and Lily White had just came out genetically. That's when I kind of like reemerged into like a more serious, like, I think I can make this more fun of a hobby. Maybe it'll be a fun business. We'll do reptile shows. It'll be fun and exciting. So it was me, and Brett was like, why do you want to do this? Why do you want to do this? And now it's all he does is reptiles. So obviously you got to listen to your wives or husbands, whomever.
Yeah. Take note, Gerald.
Yes. Yep. Listen to us. Anyway, so we did all that. And when I first got in, I would really just look at the adults. So this is what I still do to this day. If there is a pair and I love them, I will never buy big animals. I will always buy the babies, always. Because I tell everybody on every one of my lives, nobody wants to part with their best stuff, right? But when they're a baby, you don't know what it's going to potentially look like. So it was very common for me to be like, okay, I love this pair. Let me buy this one, and I'll buy 2 of from that pair, so that my hope is to raise whichever one that I, like the most and have that eye for it. And so long story, somewhat shortened. I obviously still to this day, I always gravitated towards tricolors and yellows. So.
He's making fun of me because I control you? No, he has zero control.
Exactly. You're like, no.
I have my own room on the other side of his.
Yeah, exactly. So you each have your own. But not to say, it's just sometimes we have the brain to have really good ideas that might need time to execute. So stick with us,
Yeah.
So yeah.
So was it like did you focus more on like high pattern, high white, like Harlequin kind of stuff, or
Yeah, I honestly gravitate towards the same thing all the time, and I can have 47 of the like almost same looking animal, but just different genetics, and it's very common and typical of me. So, yeah, I'm just like, you could look at a gecko and be like, I bet that's a Gabby gecko or something like that. And my friends do it all the time. But yeah, I typically was just like, my favorite is like that. I call it hard white. I'm not sure what the like real word is for it, but it's like that thicker, very like defined white, that paper white, but it's like thicker looking, not the like soft, like softer, fluffier white. I love
Yeah.
the hard white tricolors. I like them in Harleys, but I always end up gravitating towards pins. I'm sure if you look at some of the photos that I know that you have, but they all have a look, you know.
Yeah,
It's
well,
a
we can
thing.
hop into that and start looking at some of the animals that you sent over for
Yeah.
pictures.
So we
So let's
produced
start with this
her.
one.
I love her. She's so nice. And like you see how she looks and you're like, no way. And in person she's even prettier. Like she's just such a phenomenal and incredible gecko. I love her. But
Yeah, it's so
honestly, a lot
cute.
of them are gonna what?
The contrast. I love the contrast with the colors, right? And
Yeah.
it really the white really pops when you have the other
Yeah.
bright and dark colors.
Yep. That's what I love. Contrast. It's everything. I love that and I love yellows. They're my two favorites.
Well, I'm glad to hear another person on the yellow bandwagon.
Oh my God. I don't understand. Yellow is just so it's just so bam impactful. And there are people out there who somehow like reds better. I just don't get it. I'm just kidding. I'm judging you, but I'm not going to do it publicly.
She already did. You
I did.
just did.
I just did. Yep, exactly.
I mean they all have their own thing, right? But
Yeah,
there's certain ones that you'll gravitate towards. I've always really liked yellows. The reds are
yeah,
nice too. And I do have some red stuff here. I
yeah.
prefer more the hypo stuff, so like the pinks and
So
or you're
good.
having more of a softer color to it. But it's
Yeah,
probably because I like yellows. But
yeah.
it's funny because I like the bright yellows, so it's like
See?
the opposite.
Yep. I like yellows, and I love it with like, I just love that you can make a yellow and it has so much to it. You know, I love that's when I really love like fluffy white and white spot trait, because it makes the yellow brighter, you know? It's
Yeah,
just a color
I've
thing.
hatched some yellow lily empty backs this year, or not
So
this year,
pretty.
season before, but they're
Yeah.
all het phantom. And the
Yeah.
het phantom influence, I love how it puts like the dark outlines of everything. You get
Yeah.
like just a dark, almost like it's someone went and traced it,
Yeah. I
and
agree
put
with
an
that.
outline and everything. It's so pretty.
It is. It's so pretty. And there's so many cool features to it that like when you really look at stuff and you really get in and stare at it for a hot minute, there are some very cool different traits that play into, some of my favorite geckos. So
Yeah. So which
they
gecko is this? Is this one of your holdbacks?
yeah, so this is it's her first season breeding. Her name is FedEx because she's elixir and fetter. So I try to be I when I name things, I look at both of the things, like both of the parents' names and like how can I be creative with it and so on and so forth. So
That's
that's
awesome.
usually my method. But then if I can't come up with a name and it's something like I didn't make or whatever, a lot of times I'll like look at strip club names and someone gave me the idea of horse like racing horse names. So you can
Okay.
kind of do different things. And then sometimes I go on Urban Dictionary. Like I have a female named Menti B and I just love it. I probably need a Delulu one of these days too. But
I've kind of come up with like the names that I'll use would be 90s nostalgia names. Like
oh,
I have like a Falcor and I have a Scuba Steve.
oh, so good.
And it's funny because I got him and he kind of ended up not looking exactly the picture I got him. When I got him, his
Yeah.
eyes were a lot bigger than I thought they
Oh,
would be. So
weird.
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I was like, oh, I'm gonna call you Scuba Steve. Like he has a little scuba mask.
It's perfect. I love
Yeah,
it.
like just like Barrymore, like just a bunch of
Yeah.
different like kind of you kind of go for a theme, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
when you have a theme, it makes it easier to name, I find,
Yes.
because the options are endless.
Hmm. I agree. But then I felt like I kind of got stuck. Like I like so Noah and Meredith at Oklana every year do a different theme. So when they look back, they can be like, oh, that was that theme and that was that season, which I think is actually really
That's
smart.
actually smart. Yeah.
It was really smart. And one year someone gave them the idea of using font names, when you go through all the giant
Yeah.
font list. And I was like, that's so smart. And then another year it was like Bob's Burgers, like the actual burgers of the day. And so like
Okay.
there were so many really smart things that you can utilize and themes. And I really liked it in that capacity because for a minute I was like, let's do everything. And I actually did 90s cartoons and like I did Rocco's Modern Life and All Real Monsters and like all the things that I was obsessed with and still probably am.
Yeah.
We did that. And then I was like, but wait, now I'm running out of names and I don't like what's left. So I was like, screw it. Let's just do whatever.
My husband's throwing me under the bus. Yeah. So my European import I named Visa.
Oh my God. This
And I
is
have a
genius.
cappuccino named Overdraft.
Oh, stop. That's phenomenal. This is perfect.
And you say going on your strip club name. We have a strip club around like probably about 40 minutes from us. It's called Pig
Yeah.
Owl.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm
See?
not naming a gecko after Pig Owl. That's not
You
happening.
have to. Now you have to. Or if you don't, I will. We had Spearmint Rhino and Glitter Gulch, and there was like one or two others, but those are the ones that kind of stayed. So
That's funny. Cassandra says that she
Oh,
lets my kids name her hatchlings, but she has to use things she thought of in the month they hatched. Okay, yeah. Oh God, no.
Yep.
Does
No, I
somebody
have a gecko.
you have a glory hole?
I have a glory hole. She was so the reason why it was her pairing was the 69th, like it was actually from Chase and it was like number 69. I was like, okay, she has to have a dirty name. So
That's funny.
yeah. And then like we had one from I think it was like Kinky and something else. And we've had I don't know if I'm allowed to say this on live, but we had Dirty Sanchez and we had what was the other ones? We had a series of just some really good ones that, especially when we were alive and had to say it. And like to us, it's just a name.
That's
But
funny.
now it's, it was so funny. So Aaron, yeah. Aaron is basically like our right hand. He's our store manager. So he helps and we do all the gecko stuff together. Like we did photos. He helped me with all the photos and holding sticks, which is a big job because it's hard work.
Yeah, I like the fun names. Like I was looking, Tara Lee had a whole bunch of posts at
Yes.
one point. She had one called Porn Stash
Yep.
that I was buying for a while. And I'm like,
I
oh,
love it.
I'm like, I want it more because of the name. I'm not
Yes.
gonna lie.
100%. She and I joke actually, like we'll see each other and we're like, our naming is so similar. It was so good.
Well, I find like I tend to follow the same rule, having been, I guess, around horses and
Yeah.
growing up around horses, is it's bad luck to change the name of the horse when you buy a
Yes.
horse. So
Yes.
I'm the same way when I buy a gecko. If it
Yeah.
has an existing name, I'll ask. I'm like, does it have a name? Because I don't want to change it if it
Yeah.
has a name. So when it
Plus,
has
like,
a really cool name, it's kind of almost an incentive to get it even
Yep.
more.
I was gonna say, plus, like if they were breeding the animal, it gets really confusing,
Yeah. Well, and so the green one that I have, Lipton, his original name was Lipton.
Uh-huh.
And then I think the person that I bought him from had changed his name to Matcha. So I put it
Oh.
back to Lipton because I was like, well, like his name out there that people really recognized him from when he was having all his pictures posted around was Lipton. So I
Yep.
want to definitely go back with the original. And if there's other hatchlings out there that are by that pairing, people are going to know who it's
Mhm.
from, right?
Yeah. I think it's so important to keep that just for that, for tracking purposes, Plus, like, if a gecko is well known and has a name, like that's like instant advertising anyway. So it would be silly to not keep that.
Yeah, and I think the more clever the name, the more fun. Like I named a gecko Saltburn.
Oh my gosh, stop. That's amazing. See, that's
Well,
what I mean.
it had like drippiness going on the side, and I was
love that.
I was thinking like the bath scene, and I was like, okay, I'm naming it
Yes.
Saltburn.
That's so perfect. I love it. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like it's fun to get creative. So I'm with you on there. I that is something that I do enjoy. There are times where I'm like, damn it, I have like 25 geckos that I have to name. What am I going to do? And then I just sit down and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do? And so we just come up with random stuff. We have like Vengeful Whistle this year that's gonna come up. And so there's a male that you have a photo of. His name is exactly, there you go. I love that. I love that. Misfit. Not him. That's a yellow. And that's not, I posted it last night actually. He's not a Basil kid, he's a Petri kid. Oh yeah,
Okay.
we had a Miso times Devastator, so we named one Miso Devastated, and then I have one that was from Gatsby and Swadade or something from Cryptiles, and we named him Roaring Gambler because like
Yeah.
it was just one of those. It was just one of those fun like Gatsby was so it was a roaring like I like word association, so that was
Yeah.
it.
It's
Yeah,
fun
fun.
because like I started before getting into the reptiles. We had when we were actively breeding kuni pigs,
Oh,
so they're
sweet.
fluffy pigs, like like Pua from Moana, like with spots,
Yes,
really
those are
really
so
very cute
cute.
pigs. So I went on like a 50s crooners or movie actors or styles or gangster names. So
Yeah.
I do have one pig named De Niro. I
Oh
have
my
another
god,
one named Brando after Marlon Brando.
it's
I have a
perfect.
Harlow after Jean Harlow. So you kind of go with with the different themes and stuff. It's definitely
I
fun to
love it.
come up and be creative with the names.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot of like potential for some fun. Plus then it's super memorable, like you like as much as I love like a lot of the like more basic names, but the more basic they are, the likelier that someone's going to have the same name as yours. And
Yeah.
somebody just posted a gecko and I was like, oh my god, I have that same name I came up with this year. And it was one that was more, I can't remember. I just saw it, somebody posted and I was like, dang, I got to do this. Or I got to at least,
That's gross.
what was it?
Butt cheese.
Oh my god, I know, that's so good. I love that your
So
husband is laughing at the gym. That's the
yeah.
best. So good.
So this one here, so this is part of like your yellow projects,
Yeah.
and tell me about this guy.
So that is a golden snitch, which now I should have called him golden snatch. I just think that sounds funnier. But I really, really love him. He is one that we produced, and we produced both of them so far that you've seen. He is out of Bee's Knees and Petrie, which where the white spot trait came from was more from her, not from him. But the white on him is very clean. So like it just worked out, and that was like a perfect example of like just, a good pairing that may or may not have worked great and it ended up working great.
Yeah. I love it when that happens, right? Like
Yeah.
sometimes you got to be a little creative and
Hmm.
kind of test the boundaries to see.
Exactly.
And that could go either way, but you can also pair two absolutely lovely geckos together and then be a
They
little
do nothing.
underwhelmed with what they produced, right?
Yep. That's my favorite part of breeding. Like this is Roaring Gambler. I'm obsessed with him.
Okay.
Um,
It's
but
very pretty.
isn't he just like that is like that is my perfect gecko, by the way. Like, and it's not a Harley, which everybody is like more, I don't know why people are more obsessed with Harley than they are with pins, but pins to me have a lot more opportunity for like that drip versus, I don't know. I'm just obsessed with this gecko. But yeah, so I lost my brains. What was I just saying?
You were talking about just now about the Harley difference between Harleys and pins.
No, right before that. I was like, I feel like I had one little point I was gonna make, but now I don't remember. And it's fine. This is Sunday morning, me rolling out of bed right when we started. So um
We just roll with it.
just roll. I'm gonna roll. Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Yeah. Anyways, I personally just that's what I was gonna say. I have like a rule that I typically follow with like our pairings. Some people like to breed because two look the same and put those two together and they're like, this is going to be a great pair. But sometimes I'll look at something and say, I love this about this one, but I feel like it really needs XYZ to complete or make a cooler looking animal or whatever the case is. And so I will, instead of pairing because they match up, I will still look at genetics obviously first, but if like I had a female that did not have a lot of dripping, but she had a lot of something else. And then I would pair that and
Mhm.
try to, create. But I do find that the babies do one of two things 90% of the time in a clutch. There's like 10%, which is like that's where I keep the holdbacks from, that are
Yeah.
different and have taken on both traits. But a lot of times you'll find that one looks like mom, one looks like dad. And
Mhm.
then you'll have a couple that are in between that look like something completely different. And those are the ones that I like to keep because I find it
Yeah.
to be really exciting and fun for me. But it doesn't mean that putting two together, if I want to make more that look exactly like him, I would try to find something that looks more like that. But like if I wanted to take a female who had, really nice, thick, hard white, but not a lot of dripping, like, stuff like that. So
Yeah. And it's kind of, you have to, it's easier once you have proven breeders and you kind of have an
yes,
idea of what they produce, right?
yes,
And you kind of really, like, I've noticed, like, I'm still fairly new in this. So for me, I'm like I'm going into my fourth season now of producing
mhm,
stuff. So I already have a good idea of some of my, initial, like, original geckos. I'm like, well, you've now produced 1 or 2 seasons. I
yeah,
have a really good idea what comes out of you in different combinations. And then you can kind of work with it a little bit better.
yeah,
And it's hard, I find, like, and some of these geckos I've seen lineage and I've seen pictures, and still I'm surprised
yeah.
what they
Me too.
produce in the pairings, right?
Yeah,
And I
100%.
think that's the exciting piece, like the
Hmm.
exciting part of it all, is
Yes,
you really never know, especially when you're working with some really niche projects, or if you're
yeah.
having a lot of stacking, you really don't know what's going to come out of it.
Have no idea, which is why it's so fun. And that's another thing. I'm glad you had mentioned. A lot of times people will have this like one male and it's like the most amazing male and he's beautiful, but they pair him to 10 females. You're just limiting your genetics at this point. Like you're not
Yeah.
giving yourself enough diversity in your own collection to be able to hold back certain things that are not genetically like, matching essentially, or having similar parents or line breeding, at least unintentionally. And like that is why I always tell people, they're like, oh, I already have my males that I need or whatever. My sole purpose in gecko life is buying males. I
Yeah.
love nice males. Like it's probably my favorite thing to purchase. Like a females, beautiful females, amazing, of course. But like if you have the opportunity to get some really nice boys, like that's
Yeah.
really, really important. And having diversity. And just because you have some that might not breed this season doesn't mean that you can't do it next season when something else that you're raising up is better or whatever. Just don't get rid of, the nice boys.
Yeah, and it's funny because I actually had this conversation with my husband the other day, and I was like, "Oh, I think I could use another 1 or 2 males with some of the
Mhm.
projects." And the reason for that is I like to have one-to-ones. Like that's for
Yeah.
me. I like to have one male with for one pairing for that
Yeah.
season, and like I'll have, let's say this year I have 14 pairings that I'm doing, but 2 males have two, potentially a third female, just because of what comes with that male and
Yeah.
how I'm wanting to increase my odds of what I'm going to produce within hatchlings, right?
Yes.
Because you don't know, you could breed and that female could give you very minimal eggs,
Yeah.
or I've had some last season that didn't give me any eggs. So I
Yes.
mean, it's kind of up in the air. But that is a good point, because if you're spreading out and you're having one-to-one and you're having more diversity in what you're producing, then you have the luxury of holding back more, because then you can
100%. Could you
use it
imagine
holding
having,
back in other projects.
yes, I was going to say, could you imagine having 20 females, right? And
Yeah,
all 20 females had, just say, 5 babies, right? And
yeah,
then each one of those 5 babies and of those 20 females, every one of them is from a different male. You have the ability to hold back and create an entire new collection, essentially, out of all
yeah,
of the offspring. And that kind of leads me to like my next point is, unless a gecko, especially males, unless they're really like, holy cow, I can never replicate this ever again. Oh my gosh. Between Scott and Brian, I can't complete a thought because they're both so funny.
there's so many, never enough
I love
males.
them.
He says too many
It's
of
okay.
myself. And I know you're lying, Brian.
He is so lying, but I love him. So like my thought is like, I don't know. I don't like to keep the same males for too terribly long. Doesn't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean that I'm mad at them in any capacity. I just find that like I will pair them and pair them really well, and I end up finding a baby that I like more, and then now I've just packed in more traits and more things that it's just so easy to, I don't know, just turn them over in a very like maybe every 2 years, every 3 years type thing where you are keeping your I can't even talk this morning. You're keeping everything diverse, but you're also changing it. Plus, for example, to prove my point, like Basil is so incredible. He's such a beautiful animal. I don't think you don't I did not send you a photo of him, but I love him and he's amazing and he's been doing the most magical things. I'm never going to sell him, but I'm using him as an example. At some point everybody's going to have, like, if they love that male, they're going to have offspring from him. But then when I start selling something that I paired, I did a Shaka Basil pairing and I put them together and I have a male from them that I'm obsessed with. And everybody's like, have you made his babies yet? Have you have his, like, so now that Basil, he's been amazing and everybody's had his kids. Now it's time for like the next generation and people get really excited for those. So like, it's the best way to get people still interested in similar genetics, but now it's different. Now you have a different male that you're using and it's more appealing because that you could just keep moving forward with it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with that. And it's tough when you're starting to decide which ones you're going to sell and which ones you're not going to work in
Yeah.
projects anymore. Because
Oh, yeah.
you sit there and you look at your holdbacks and you're like, okay, I have all these holdbacks, and the reason I'm holding them back is to be part of projects. So
Yeah,
this one no longer needs to be part in projects.
exactly.
Like unless you're working on specific like genetic projects that you're needing to kind of
Yeah.
keep that that male or that female to kind of
Yeah.
work back in some facet, right? If you're proving out a recessive gene or something. But yeah, it's the tricky part because I have like, and I'll come back to Scuba Steve.
Mhm.
I got him and I was like, underwhelmed. I'm like, I don't really want to use him anymore in further projects, but I love that gecko so much. He's just the sweetest. And it's tough to say, okay, well, maybe I'll be selling Scuba Steve this year.
Yeah.
It's not the right fit.
Yeah. It's so
I
hard.
mean,
I go back and forth. Like Caravaggio is amazing. I got him from Emily. And this, how like a lot of people are like, oh, tricolors fade. He still looks as old, like as an older tricolor now, because anything I think after like 3-4 years, a lot of times it can fade pretty quickly. He still
Yeah.
holds his color really, really well, and he's amazing. But I have 3 of his male offspring that I'm breeding this year, and I'm like, I don't really need him, but he's just so. He's Car. So that one's like a really tough one for me because I'm like, I really don't need to keep him, but at the same time, he's amazing and he produces magic every time. Like I've never like it's very seldom that he makes kids that are not beautiful. So, that one's a tough one.
So when you have a male or a female that you've coined and like that's been a huge influence in your projects and
Mhm.
that you've had a lot of holdbacks and it's part of a lineage that you're working on, when you go to sell, let's just say it's a male, when you go to
Mhm.
sell that animal, um, do you tend to continue to kind of promote it and sell it from an aspect from a breeding so it's somebody else can use that in their projects? Or
Mhm.
do you kind of sit there and be like, well, I've done the lineage, it's out there, and sell it, I'm going to sell it now as a pet?
So it just depends on their age and like how they were doing. Like
Yeah.
if I feel like an animal is like they kind of not crash. I don't know why. I'm gonna knock on wood. I get really lucky. I've never had any animal that just like crashes. It just hasn't really
Mhm.
happened for me, and I'm grateful. I don't know if it's something that we're doing differently, but that would be like probably a good indicator. Or if like there's some females that at some point their egg production is like 3, stuff like
Mhm.
that, then that's probably a good time to call it and say, okay, it's time to it's time to just like let off the brakes. She needs to just chill. Let's find her a pet home. But a lot of them, their lifespan is 20 something years old.
Yeah.
We don't A lot of people do not have 20-year-old crusteds. It's not common to find extremely old ones because the old ones are a lot of the original genetics, and those people kind of are just like, I can't get rid of that.
Yeah.
So yes, you can pet home them, but especially with males, no, like a lot of times they hold more value because they're so good, so prolific, you know, unless they have a problem, I don't see why.
Yeah, I guess the question was more from a sense of when you've invested so much time and energy in
Oh,
developing a certain project and stuff,
I see what you're
like,
saying.
do you start to think of it like, is that really an animal that you want to sell to another breeder so that they
I
can
see.
then boost up their project and kind of either mimic or doing what you've used that animal for? Or is it more
Okay.
of one of those like, okay, well, now it's going to a retirement home? You know what
I
I
see what you're
mean?
saying. So here's the thing. No matter what happens, if you, oh, I don't know when my computer
Your
thinks
volume went,
Siri needs to be involved.
Sorry about that.
Did you hear that? I don't know
yeah,
what just happened.
your volume went weird and then Siri started to talk.
That's just so weird. Okay, so I actually think what your question is a really great question and really worth a good response. So no matter what, if somebody's going to buy a project from you that you've put a lot of time and energy and effort into, if you are good at what you do, they're always going to be behind it. Always. Like,
Mhm.
and this is probably maybe I shouldn't tell you guys all this. I don't know. I'm not one to ever keep information. I'm an open book. But I at this point would have 2 generations at least of offspring because that's like my typical pattern. Um that in my opinion would be better than, right?
Yeah,
The a point and the objective of breeding is to keep taking yourself up to the next level. So
yeah,
that person, while that gecko is amazing and they're going to be successful with it, is still always going to be 2 seasons behind you, no
yeah,
matter what. It's going to
yeah,
take 2 years to get something up to breeding size. So if you did your due diligence, you really worked hard for that project, especially if it's a bigger project, because then if it's not, then who cares? Like this whole point is not valid. But
yeah,
if it was a really important project and you really loved it and you found that you got your best tricolor out of it, your best this out of it, your best that, and then you have that's your focus now project, you're always 2 years ahead of it. So there's no way it
yeah,
can catch up unless
yeah, no,
they do something really creative and different, which is also an option. But for the most part, you're ahead of it. So I wouldn't not want it to go, especially if somebody had a different vision for the project. I wouldn't want it to be held back, but
yeah.
technically I would be ahead of the game in that capacity. So yeah.
This is a good question. Have you had male kids that produce much better versions, but the offspring, I guess, lesser quality offspring than the original male?
So that is a great question. And honestly, when you look at the genetics, I very seldom have that happen because I really put a lot of effort into breeding really nice females with really nice males. And there are times where you're like, wow, these 2 nice things made something that was eh.
Yeah,
But for the most part, that's not often the case if you're looking back a few generations, because a lot of that comes into play. But that's a lot of times where, like, for example, I'll go back to the car reference. I still have him because we're pairing both of his incredibly nice offspring this season. And if I find that they do really, really well, then yes, it'll probably be his time to go. But it doesn't have to be, you know?
yeah.
But for the
And it's
most
the
part, yeah.
investment, right? Putting that time in, like not sell like if you produce something really nice from that pairing,
Yeah.
don't go and sell that male right away until you know what that animal's going to produce and if it's going to be a consistent trait or lineage that's going to produce down, right?
Yeah, exactly. So for the most part, if you're doing a really good job with like putting, the right things together, your outcomes should in hindsight do better. But I'll tell you this, like for example, I have a druid mage offspring. Um and I love him. His name is Rigmarole. He's really pretty. He's from Chase, and that pair has made magic, like homunculus and some other really beautiful animals. And as much as I love this one gecko, his offspring are okay. I have not
Mhm.
gotten or found the right pair for him that has outshone him or like gotten certain things that are closer to what Chase has produced from them. And so there are times where I'm like, maybe it's not a good, it doesn't work, and maybe it's not doing that, but I keep trying. So we'll
Yeah.
see. But there's some things that just like unlock other genes for others, and some don't.
Yeah. And so
Mm.
who's this one right here?
So this is me so devastated. This is what Aaron was talking about. I'm obsessed with certain like lily white traits. Have you noticed that like sometimes there are some that come out and they're just like, I don't know what to call it. It's kind of like marbling, where they're just like incredibly white with little like pops of color here and there, not like your
Freckles.
traditional.
It's like, yeah,
Yeah, not that traditional, like here's the white on the top, here's the white on the bottom, and then it takes them to come together over the years of growing. But they already come out really crazy. So
yeah,
that is what this one came from. And then the other lily white, because I think I might have sent you two, is a sable lily that, or
this
I
one.
can't tell if it's a sable lily or not. But this is Dream Creep and Cuckoo's Nest. So this is probably one of the only ones. I don't think she is, but look at how nice of a lily white that is to only be a lily, not
Yeah,
have so I love all the genes. Like they really are fun. I tell people always have, some people like, oh, it's just a lily. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. No, anything that you're ever going to get genetically, you need to like bounce it off of something else. So I
yeah.
think lilies are really vital to collections. And this we made. I'm obsessed with this gecko. In person, it's even brighter. I like barely could capture the brightness on this animal. This is something that we've been working on, and I've been so happy. It's a magpie offspring, and they just made some of the most phenomenal animals I've ever produced. So yeah, if you guys see any magpie kids, Scott just got one. He's just going to be so excited because he got a baby, and it's going to be nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then who do we have here?
So this we actually got from Brian Susan. So Susan has some really nice animals. This is Double Bubble. The pairing was sweet gum and extra, so we kept the gum theme.
Yeah,
And I just really like. So this is not one of those like hard white, but this is more of like that soft white with that little bit on the bottom. But I just like love pins that are fluffy and full of white spot
like
trait
a
and
nice little
tricolor.
cloud.
Yeah, exactly. He's just so pretty. What else? I don't remember what else I sent you or what else if we haven't. Oh, so this one's really nice. This is, I'm trying to think. I think this is Shoeless and Jux, which was, forget what the name is. Aaron knows. Maybe he's there. She's breeding this season. I actually was trying to send you another male that was completely unrelated and they look so much alike. But this is like my favorite. Like I love the way that these look, That's got
Yeah,
like the hard white, the fluffy, and look, everybody says they like Harleys, but I just always gravitate towards pins.
yeah. It's funny because I'm the same. I have a
Yeah.
lot of pins here,
Yeah,
and it does a different effect, and you
it
can
does.
still get a lot of coverage with pins. It
100%.
doesn't prevent the coverage at all.
100%. Oh, I
And
love
then
her.
we got a
We made
yellow.
her. So I don't like reds except for her. She's a red, like a red tricolor, and I just am obsessed with her. We did a loan and we still have her. That's Gamora and Magnifico, and her name is Nowhere, and I'm obsessed with her.
See, on
And
my screen it looks yellowish. So is she like a strawberry, or is
so
it
she's
bright?
definitely she's a tricolor. Her base color that's dark is red, is like a dark red. And then you
Got
have orange as that tertiary color with the white.
okay, I see it.
Hmm.
That's where it gets a little tricky with the base colors, right?
Yes.
When you're like, especially when people are newer and they're trying to figure out base. I know I
Yeah.
bought one that was, I purchased it as pink. I was told it
Okay.
was pink, and
Mm.
it's definitely yellow. It's
Yeah.
not pink.
Yeah.
But it can play some tricks on you when there's other things at play, and it kind of looks a little different, or if they're
Yep.
fired up or down, or
For
this one's
sure.
super lovely. So what's your plans with her, like within projects? You said your only red project, or
So I have a few. I don't like reds. I love yellows. Brian is right. They are better. I agree. We can fight. Not with each other because we agree, but with other people. But I paired her to the other male Roaring Gambler that I showed you. So I just thought that was going to be a really fun pair. They do look a lot of alike. So I thought this is one of those that like they would both complement each other, and I want to make more of them. So this is the way to do it. But yeah, I'm excited. So she's breeding this season, and so is he. All of these are like this year's breeders that you're seeing. Some of the newer ones. We have probably 40 more to take. I swear, never end.
Awesome.
Photos forever.
My hubby's asking, have you found and can you bring to light an example of buying an animal and it's just not wanting to breed? It's beautiful, but it's just not willing. And I think that goes back to the point that Scott says is that some of my geckos turn gay. This happens where some males just don't want to breed. And this happens with ball pythons too.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. I wouldn't lose all hope. I would just try different things. Like, I'm not sure like what your methods are when you're breeding, but what we do is we put the males in with the females. But if I find that they're not accomplishing much and not doing anything, for like every 50 males, we may have one that doesn't, but for the most part, they usually do and they want to get the job done. It's like just, it's nature, right? You could try putting the females into the males enclosures, and then you could also try doing like in a tub. I don't love in a tub personally, but you could put them in a plain, like open, clear tub and just keep an eye and see if anything happens. So there's like nothing around for them to like hide behind and see if anything changes. But if that's the case, that's one of the prime examples of why I'll buy like 2 or even 3 little offspring of, of a pairing that I love so that I can guarantee that I get what I want.
Yeah, what was he saying?
With
the ball pythons, it's the female rejecting the male, just like humans.
Yeah, and that happens too. Some females are like, don't touch me and get away from me, but for the most part.
And you get some females that are there, they're like, come on, it's time to go.
I had a female who was ready to breed for 3 years, and it wasn't until like this year did she actually breed and lay eggs. So
okay, wow.
Sometimes it's just a waiting game and being patient. And there are times where I'll be like, I could not get this animal to breed for me to save my life. I sent one off to my friend's house, my friend Sam, and she bred that season. So yeah, just like your way. Poor Michelle. I love Michelle. But there are instances where it's just maybe you don't have something favorable going on. Maybe they need it a little warmer. Maybe, there's so many different factors. I wouldn't completely discredit it until you've tried some of those. Or that's a good time to do, HIPAA plays hard to get. That's a really good time to do a breeder loan and see if you have somebody who you're very good friends with and you trust that's a big deal. But yeah, and mood music, it does help.
Yeah.
Just need the house without being asked. Exactly. All of those.
So we've hit over the hour mark. It's so easy to chat with you, Gabby. I wanted to talk about Flora Fauna though before
Let's do it.
We close it off. So I do have a video. You sent me a bunch of clips and we put a little video together and I thought I'd post it up to share.
Thank you. It's just the best part about this is you're not seeing people making money. You're not seeing sales, which do happen. But you're seeing like camaraderie and you're seeing togetherness and you're seeing like relationships being forged and people really like enjoying their time together. It is phenomenal. Thank you, Brian. I can't wait to see you. It's like 3 months away.
Yeah, it's going to come up pretty soon. And I know we were talking about it and I've been talking to my hubby about it and seeing if we can make the trip from Canada.
I really hope you do.
Everyone.
I really hope you do.
But it's a really cool venue that you have. Like it's not anything remotely close to what you would expect, like what you would get at a show, right? Like it's a different event in itself.
Yes.
So here, I'll bring the little volume down a bit. So why don't you explain like a little bit more about this event for people who don't know about it?
Of course.
Or haven't been.
So it really was like born from the need to go to a show that doesn't have the stench of like dying animals because importers have just brought all these animals in. And, it came from like the need to have a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit more professionalism, to be really honest, and have fun. Right.
Yeah.
We were doing this cute little gecko swap, me and some other breeders and friends. We were just sitting on the floor. We're like, we need to do this in like a large scale. And that's kind of where it was like kind of born from that idea. And this is a way for people to bring their best stuff, not a ton of stuff, but like their best stuff, and have fun and sit and like get to know each other and build relationship and have a little class. I like that. We're very
Yeah,
classy.
that's classy.
He's up style. No. Um, it's just a lot of education and friendships that are built and great sales because the people that come, oh yeah, so classy, they made him twerk. I'll tell you about that in a second. People just come together and bring, nice high-end quality animals, and the people who are coming to the show are very intentionally coming to the show. It's not like a bunch of families that walk by. You don't have to work so hard for the money that you're making because you don't have to explain everything. If somebody wants it, they buy it. If they don't, they
Right.
don't. And I tell people, like, the sales should be the like benefit at the end. This is essentially supposed to be an event where people come together. They, again, make their relationships, build their relationships, meet new people, meet industry leaders, and really collide in a really, bonding type way. But
It's a conference first, right? Like at the end of the day.
it's a conference first. We don't have the capacity to have thousands of people. It just doesn't work. It's a wedding venue, it's like 300-400 people max. So the best part is people go there, they go because they want to go. They want to buy the higher end stuff. They want to find the nice of the nice. They really want to just, shop, but also meet people and learn, which is my favorite part. Sunday is our conference. We start with yoga. We have usually like an 8 and a 9 o'clock class. This year we'll probably just do one so we can all go because it was so fun. Kyle Salzman from Gecko Diva, he came in leopard yoga pants and a tank top, and it was the most phenomenal sight you'll ever see. And Brian Susan brought Will and Trenton, and they wore his pants, which were too short for them, and they were in their like little booty shorts in downward dog. And I was like, wow, we're really gonna get way more than we paid for on this one. I was just waiting for something to slip. But it was just such a beautiful morning to start. And then we had conferences. There was a big roundtable discussion, Q&A, lots of conversation, lots of hobby, like big, like this, questions and kind of giving out some of their tips and tricks. And then beyond that, we had a plant propagation class. We had a tarantula class. We had bioactive class. Emily made these really cute little crested gecko molds, and everybody painted it. And it's like the most beautiful tricolor crested you'll ever make ever. And it's wonderful. And so,
awesome.
There's brunch. And then Stacy and Davey always bring pizza because they're just amazing. And they own a Domino's or a bunch of Domino's. And it's really fun. Yeah. Michael knows the round table is amazing. We talk about controversial things and stuff that a lot of people don't want to talk about. And we try to be open and honest. And it's an incredible experience.
That's really awesome.
Yeah. Brian said it was very intimate. And Brian, we met Brian at Flora and Fauna, like in person that year. And we had so much fun. We karaoke'd together. What did we sing? Was it Paradise by the Dashboard Light?
That's a great song.
My favorite. So good. So yeah, we have the best.
Yeah, because you guys have the party on the Saturday night too, right?
And yeah. This year the theme is iconic movie. Oh my God, Siri keeps popping up. Sorry. That little
That's
wedge.
okay.
She just shows up. I don't know what I'm saying.
Yeah, you're saying a trigger word.
I need to like change it to like, something ridiculous that nobody would actually say out loud.
Well, Bob, you're gonna have to come then. He says we need to get more guard people excited to go.
We do. So let's make it happen because we could totally use more guard people. Plus, honestly, you guys should do some ball pythons. We need some more ball python people to join us in this event as well.
Well, there are great ball python people in New York as well that might be worth looking into. I know for us, it's a bit harder for ball pythons for Canadians, right? Because the CITES and everything. It'd be a lot easier to
that makes sense.
For some Cresties, but so you did have a hognose breeder, I think, last year, right?
We actually had 2, and we have them again this year. Succulent Hogs is one of them, and then Boss Hogs, and we love them both, and
Okay.
they're amazing. So, and yeah, so they'll be back, and then we always have diversity, but because like I am a Crested Gecko person, all of my friends are Crested Gecko people, so we tend to be very crested heavy, but we try
Yeah.
to really diversify as much as we possibly can so that you can have a lot of people,
Bobby, I don't think ball python people have heard "We need more of you" in a long time.
Very, very good point.
You,
You're
you
100%
must turn them
correct.
on with that saying.
Yeah, Bobby knows. He ain't lying. It's so true. Maybe yes, that'll be like a big, excitement for
Like,
them to hear.
ooh, they need
Yeah,
me.
they'll feel real good. And I also love it. Michael said, "You don't need any pants," and you don't. You can just show
Yeah,
up.
you just show up.
No pants.
That's awesome. So on top, so it's going to be the first weekend of May, right? It's the
Yes,
weekend
it's the
of
second, third, and fourth.
okay.
Yeah, and tickets are now available. So February is actually right, like this week we like really hit all the advertising and marketing harder, and we'll start doing a lot more like socials and promotions and all that fun stuff, and a lot of the breeders will start posting, and like we tag them, and it's really great because then that all starts to like organically happen. But we advertise to the locals there too, just because it's why not make a little extra if you can, but it's
Yeah,
really fun. I'm really
that's
excited. I
awesome.
hope you come.
Well, we're going to have to do a part 2 chat, I think, because we'll have to deep dive into the Flora Fauna store that you started, because
Yes.
not only are you not busy enough with the Crested Geckos and
Yeah.
running the conference, now you've started the store too.
Yeah. We have it
Um,
all.
yeah, so we'll have to jump onto that. But since we're getting close to, well, we're definitely over the hour.
Oh, sorry. I know I can talk.
No, it's okay. You know what? It's fine. We just flow with it, and it's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Um, I want you to share with everyone where they can find you. Where's your socials? You want to pimp those out?
Oh, yeah. That's so kind. Thank you. On Instagram, if you want to talk to me, it's Morph Menagerie. And then if you go to Flora Fauna Conference and Flora Fauna WF, both of those are that's our show and our store. We're also on Instagram. We have websites. You could probably just reach out and we'll help with anything if you need it. But yeah, thank you. Thank you for
That's
letting me
awesome.
do all that
And,
excitement and
and
having me.
girl, there's other things that you can wear other than pants, so it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be a weird event.
Oh, yeah. But it could be a little weird too if you want.
Well, thank you so much for joining today and
Yeah.
hopping on and having a good chat. I love doing these, and I think it's great to kind of have these discussions and be able to kind of talk about different topics and then share
Yeah.
what you're doing, right? Because everyone sees on Instagram what everyone's doing and what we share, but it's
Mhm.
really nice to have a sit down conversation and kind of deep dive into some of those topics. So I really appreciate you hopping on and having a chat with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm so grateful and honored to at least even be invited. So thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm here for it. Like if you guys have any questions or if anybody ever wants to know anything, like I am an open book. So feel free to ask. So thank
Awesome.
you.
Well, I'm going to put you backstage, so don't go
Okay.
anywhere unless you have to run.
No,
And
no,
I will be
you're
there in
good.
a few minutes and we'll close off the show. So
Okay.
thank you
Sounds
so
great.
much.
Thank you, Crystal.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
All right, awesome, everyone. Great chat with Gabby, and we'll have to have her on again soon because she does have a store too that they've opened up. And I've been seeing some pretty awesome posts, and would love to hear more about the concept of that and how that came about. The next show, so I'm doing it bi-weekly this month. So I won't have one next Sunday, but there is going to be another one the following Sunday, and we're going to have round 2 with Robbie from Robbie's Reptiles. So definitely keep an eye out. It is posted if you want to go and subscribe or hit that notification bell. But I will see you guys all in 2 weeks. So have an awesome rest of your Sunday and an awesome week.
Shake your dreams from your hair. I'm already there, right beside you.